Hello and welcome back to See Red UK, where quite simply the Chicago Bulls team. This podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network, and wherever you're listening, rate, review, subscribe, helps us out and ensures you don't miss another episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell, give us some thumbs up and drop some comments down below. I'm Matt, and as usual, joined by Neill. How are we doing, Neill?
I'm good, thank you very much. Looking forward to having a few chats about Bulls and also with a little bit of a celebration as we've hit our 1 year anniversary since we started doing this pod.
Yeah, not that you'd think it going off how we've just started.
No, we had a few false starts this evening, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I think we're quite close to 100 episodes in this kind of format as well. We've been through a few different formats, haven't we? So we're getting there. We're getting there. So yeah, on to the Bulls talk. Not a lot going on, but enough going on to hold a conversation.
Just about.
And there are some Bulls players actually playing at the minute. Three Bulls players, all with contracts with the Bulls. And I'll start off with Nikola Vucevic. He is back playing for Montenegro after a 4-year absence. I think it's the first time he's played for him, obviously, since he's been a Bull. They've been having a few friendlies in preparation for the FIBA World Cup, which starts next week, I believe, 25th.
Mm-hmm.
It's not been too good for Montenegro, to be fair. They lost to France 80-69, in which Vuce got 11 points, 11 rebounds. They then lost to Slovenia, in which Luka Doncic hit a triple-double. Vuce got another double-double, 11 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists. And then over the weekend, they lost to Georgia 84-79, in which Vuce got 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 1 assist. Yeah, obviously doesn't look too good. I mean, Vuce's numbers don't look too bad, I guess. You know, obviously he's playing with weaker teammates, probably against weaker opposition that have got maybe one standout player. Well, I don't know how much stock people put into the international game either. Do you know what I mean? I know for me personally, I haven't watched it. It's just all been box scores, and they're not easy to find, the box scores. Some of them I had to ask somebody in Montenegro for them stats as well for Vuce. And then trying to find any sort of footage is just, it's not working. Obviously,
flexing with the contacts in Montenegro there.
Oh yeah, joys of internet and social media, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, we've got contacts in Turkey, which is we'll move on to the next one in a minute. But yeah, Montenegro now. But no, I mean, I don't watch international basketball. I'll watch the Olympics because that's usually broadcast like this. I'm not paying for an extra subscription to watch it. I'll just make do with being a box score watcher for these international games. If I find any footage, obviously I'll share it. If not, then we just get the box scores.
Mm-hmm.
On to Turkey and Onuralp Bitim. Now, there's a bit more coverage from Turkey. However, it tends to have regional blackouts, which doesn't help. They did play Poland last week and they beat them. Couldn't find a box score for Bitim. Don't know why. The site I was using has one for every game apart from that one. But then over the weekend, they played a back-to-back. I think it was Saturday. They beat Iceland 99-72. With Bitim going 12 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 of 5 from 3. And then yesterday, they beat Bulgaria. Well, I say beat Bulgaria. They absolutely destroyed them. 104-66, which Bitim got 9 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, and was 3 of 5 from 3. Now, I have managed to share a video at some point today on the socials, a few highlights of that game. Obviously, there's a lot of highlights for everybody else, but you can hear Bitim's name being mentioned, and in particular on them 3-pointers. And they were impressive, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said to you when we were talking about it earlier on, one of them was from Steph Curry range, which was lovely to see.
Yeah, and it's like I said to you, they were awkward looking shots as well, weren't they? It's like how bit Demar DeRozan, but from further out. You know, maybe like you say, a bit more like Steph Curry, because he's some that you think, how have you hit them?
Yeah.
But I mean, in them 2 games alone, you know, 10 3-point attempts, hitting 5 of them, so 50% from 3 in 2 games. You know, it's all right. The opposition's probably not anywhere near what he's going to face when he comes over to or goes over to America. But at the end of the day, it's in a competitive match. I think their games at the minute are preliminary qualifiers for the Olympics or something. Somewhat completely random. Like I say, I don't understand international basketball, but you know, he's playing, and he's somebody we're both excited to see, aren't we? So we'll be following his journey as much as we can. And the last one, Carlick Jones, who all of a sudden is from South Sudan, apparently. Don't know how that come about, but I saw he flew to Australia last week, and then next thing he was announced has been on their roster. They're making their World Cup debut themselves, which is a good thing. You know, obviously Noah and Deng and that have been over there trying to promote the African game, haven't they? And obviously Deng being South Sudanese himself, it's a bit of a Bulls link there, I guess. So I think they're going to be the team that everybody roots for if their country's not playing, maybe. But yeah, Carlick Jones made his debut earlier today. The game was played in Australia against Brazil. They lost 85-75, and with Carlick Jones going 12 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. So obviously Brazil have been kind to everybody by not picking Felicio and giving everyone a chance. So yeah, that's pretty much the international roundup. I don't know if you've got anything on that. What your take on international games is?
No, like you say, it's kind of hard to follow it and to get the footage, even to get the results can be a bit of a challenge, and you have to do a bit of digging. But it's good to see that there's a few Bulls players out there representing, and hopefully they'll do well. It's nice to always see Bulls players do well, regardless of what level of play they're playing or wherever they're playing.
Yeah, I mean, just moving forward on that, I believe Montenegro now don't play until the World Cup. So obviously Vuk's going to be the only one in the world. Well, no, Carlick Jones will be there as well, but I don't really class Carlick Jones as a Bull at the minute. But anyway, that's obviously a discussion we've had plenty of times.
Yeah,
I know that South Sudan are playing again twice this week. I think they've got Australia and Venezuela, something random like that. And Turkey play maybe tomorrow, and then I think that's them done as well. So yeah, that's the international roundup. On to the bulk of the episode, and it's kind of come about after a video of Kobe White over the weekend, where I kind of threw his name into the hat for who's going to have a breakout season. Obviously we've seen plenty of videos of Kobe. The main 2 names that were being put forward, there was Zio and P. Will. And just out of interest, there is another video of Kobe White in some sort of pro run, just absolutely destroying him. I think I've shared it on Twitter, on all the socials. It's a pro run, but you can see the work he's put in. I know you were quite excited by the first move in the clip, weren't you?
Yeah, the first play in the clip. It's, I mean, again, like we talked about before, these pro-am games, it's not the level of competition and how well they're dominating that bothers me. It's the fundamentals and how they've worked on their game and how obvious it is that they've worked on their game. That's what impresses me from watching these, and that's what I take from them. So to see Kobe in that first play, he kind of drives towards the hoop, and then from the baseline, he does a turnaround fadeaway jump shot. It looks solid. It looked well executed, and that's the kind of thing I want to see from Kobe. It's great.
Yeah. So obviously, I think it was Saturday. I put out a poll on Twitter to see who obviously Bulls Nation thought was going to have the breakout year, if that's what you want to call it, and to put any comments on who they think was the most important one of the three. I did include Dale Terry and Julian Phillips, but I don't think they're in running really. I think Kobe come out on top in the poll. P. Will very close in second. Ayo quite a way away. There was a few comments. I can't really remember exactly what they were, but obviously we'll give our opinion, our take on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, the player I think who will have the season is Kobe. I think last season was just like a little, putting the tip in sort of thing. Just teased us a little bit, I think. I think he's just showing what he can do, and hopefully he's a bit more consistent with it this year and gets his stats back up, because obviously that was one thing that a lot of Bulls fans commented on was, well, how has he had a good season when his stats have dropped? And obviously, like we always say, it's the eye test. You've got to watch the games. If you watch the games, you'll see just how much he had improved. So for me, Kobe's the player I think that will have that season. I don't know which one you think will.
I went for P. Will in the vote. It's hard not to. He's my guy, but I genuinely think he's due his breakout. Like I've said before, this is technically his third year, even though it is on paper his fourth year. He spent almost an entire season out, so I'm kind of expecting and hoping to see more from him now. It's time. It really is. We need to start seeing a little bit more, especially consistency. And he said he's in a better headspace, and I'm really hoping that means he's more confident in order to take the shots when the shots come to him, and not to be so passive, as passive Pat, as a lot of people have started kind of calling him. I'm really hoping that now is his time. But that said, I wouldn't be one bit surprised if it's Kobe that breaks out more or quicker, at least, than Pat. And another player that might seem a bit of a strange one that wasn't in the list and wasn't mentioned, and I said I was going to hold on to it for the actual pod, and that's Zach. Now, it's not so much a breakout, I suppose, but I think, he really is hitting his prime years now. He's hopefully going to be fit from game one and not having to try and get his feet back under himself again like he was at the start of last season. He finished the season strong, apart from the last game in the play-in. And I do think that Zach is going to show us a lot more consistency, and a lot more of the all-star Zach that we know and love and have seen flourishes of. So, I mean, like you say, it doesn't necessarily have to be coined a breakout year as such, but I'd be happy to see all three of those players take a step up, or at least more consistency in their game. And I will be happy if all three of them do it, but I think all three of them have the potential to do so.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the poll was on the sort of the young core, but I guess, like you say, anybody can have that breakout year, if that's what you want to call it. So obviously the second part of the question is, who's it most important that has that year?
Pete Will.
Yeah, that was going to be my choice as well.
Yeah,
I think
hands down.
Kobe's got himself to that level now where Bulls Nation appreciate him more. Mm-hmm. Maybe put himself, got a lot of the hate off his back, sort of thing. And that's what P. Will needs to do now, and he needs to have that season where he turns Bulls Nation back in his favour. Because there's a lot that have left, and and he needs it for himself as well, because he needs it for himself and for the team, because now's the time we need to see him take that next step. We've discussed him time and time again, and I've said time and time again, I don't think he's Kawhi Leonard II.
No.
My expectations aren't as high as a lot of people's, but if he reaches the expectations I've got for him, then I'm going to be more than happy. It's as simple as that. And we need him to be not even necessarily the fourth guy on the team, the fourth choice, whatever people trying to word him as. We just need him to be consistent and realise that he is in the NBA and that, if he starts the games, he's a starter. He needs to be dominant from the first play of the ball or whatever and he needs to be. He's never going to be, as we've said before, as the fourth choice on that starting lineup. He's never going to put up 20 points consistently. He can do it, but how can he do it consistently when there's three other people getting the ball before him?
Yeah.
If he can be a threat on both ends and be a dominant force going to the rim on both ends as well, really, because he needs to up his rebounding. That's one big thing defensively. So for me, it's more important that P. Will has that year for him personally and for the team. Obviously, you've said P. Will as well, so
yeah, exactly. To second everything you've said, P. Will is potentially the future of the franchise. If he meets even close to the expectations that management seem to have for him and a lot of the fans seem to have for him, all you need to do is listen to some of the other players around the league that have played against him, played with him. Everybody talks about P. Will like he is, this prodigy, but he just doesn't seem to be fulfilling that potential when we're watching him play. We see flashes of it. You can certainly see that he has the physicality, he has the talent. You can see the skills when they come through. It's just consistency and confidence seem to be the two things that are lacking. And I mean, if he gets that confidence and realizes what he could be capable of achieving, then the other word that you've just used there becomes the word to describe him, which is dominant. And he has that possibility, especially going forward as the team moves along and players change, rotations change. He has the potential to not only be one of the alphas of this team in the future, he also has the potential to seriously dominate the opposition. And there's not a lot of other players that are built out there like him who have that raw talent that he has. He just needs to harness it. He really does.
Yeah. And obviously the third sort of name that I threw out there really was Ayo. And I think the fact that he's that far down in the vote and the fact that we've not even mentioned him.
Yeah.
It's not important that he has a breakout year. He probably won't have a breakout year. For Ayo, he's just got to get back to... I guess he needs to know what his role is first and foremost. Because as we said on the last podcast we did, that he's we've re-signed him. Happy enough that we've re-signed him, but he kind of looks like the odd man out in the rotation at the minute because, as fans in particular, Bulls Nation have just lost complete faith in him, or that's how it seems anyway. A lot of people are saying that he's going to end up going to China, and just from year one, where he's Chicago's own and he's second round pick that diamond in the rough, all that sort of stuff. What they were saying to the end of year two, where they're saying no, you can go to China.
Yeah,
it's a drop off, and that's what he's just got to get back to establishing himself in the rotation. Basically, I think that's got to be Ayo's sort of first aim anyway. Do you know what I mean? And just going back to the confident year one Ayo, basically the chip on the shoulder. He's got his 38 tattoo or whatever it is that he got in it, and just look at that before every game and get that chip back on your shoulder and go out there and be IO. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I guess he's now got a chip on his shoulder again, or could potentially have a chip on his shoulder again because of the way people are now speaking about him.
Yeah.
And that very well may play into his favour.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's obviously what I've got to say about the breakout. I don't know if you've got anything else on it.
The only thing I'd add on it is I do want to see IO do well, but I just, unless he starts doing some serious impressing in training, I actually don't see him getting many minutes, particularly at the start of the season anyway. So it's going to be very hard for him to break out or find his place in the rotation if he doesn't see the minutes.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, he's just signed his. Well, it's not an extension, is it? He's re-signed. Yeah. And the next thing we're going to talk about is extensions, and obviously, one of them players included in that list is, as you just put across the bottom, Patrick Williams. It's like you're professional at this now. Obviously, the other one listed is Demar DeRozan, but we'll speak about P. Will first. I mean, this come out start of the off season, was it, that he's potentially going to be eligible, or was it Keith Smith thinks he could get 20 million a year over 5 years or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Spoke about it quite a bit at that point. I think we actually did an episode on it. And again, this leads to why it's an important year for P. Will, because if he's playing for an extension, I can't see Bulls are going to let him go. No. As we've said time and time again. But that doesn't stop another team wanting to offer him more money if they think it's like that. Then it all comes down to whether he sees his future in Chicago or elsewhere as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And how much he thinks he's worth as well. Obviously, how he plays sometimes on the court, I probably don't think he's worth a lot, which could work in our favour.
Maybe, but then I'm sure his agent thinks he's worth an awful lot. So
yeah, and I'm sure AK thinks he's worth an awful lot as well, as we've
that too.
Seen how AK likes to dish his contracts out. We know that players tend to up the game in contract years. He's actually got another year, has he, after that? I think. But
he's just eligible for extension, isn't he?
Yeah. And obviously the second player in that, as you've listed, is Demar DeRozan. Mm-hmm. Becomes a free agent, obviously, end of the year. It's going to be a talking point for the whole year, I think, in it.
Yeah, it is.
We've seen how Bulls do business with Vooch, Kobe, Ayo. Chances are nothing gets done early, is it? We're going to be in the same with Vooch. How much are we going to give him? How are we going to extend him? He's too old. He wants to go to LA. That's everything that's going to come out in it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess the question I've got for you before you sort of give your opinion is, would you extend them, either or both?
Well, I'm going to say extend P. Will, right? I have to. However, taking the silliness out of it and being serious for a minute, if Pat has an absolutely horrific year and he drops out the rotation entirely, then you've got to ask yourself a question of, is he worth keeping around? Will he still have enough value to be worthwhile moving on the flip side of that? And it does have to start becoming a bit of a question for the front office to make a decision on what they are going to do with him. You could end up hanging on to him until he loses all value if he never breaks out or he never contributes enough. So this is going to be quite a telling season for P. Will, but my heart says extend him. I still believe that he's a slow burner, but sometimes the slow burners create the biggest flames. So we'll see. In regards to DeRozan, Well, I'm certainly not on for letting the guy walk. I'd love to see him sign for maybe a 2-year deal, with maybe a team option for a 3rd year, perhaps. I certainly wouldn't be throwing out any player options. Please stop with the player options. And I certainly wouldn't be looking at a 3-year guaranteed or a 4-year deal for him. I do think, and I've said this time and time again, I do think that DeRozan keeps himself incredibly well in shape, keeps himself fit all year long, not all season long. I mean, the guy doesn't stop in the off season, as we know. So I don't think his fitness, regardless of age, is going to be a problem. Whether or not he ends up getting an injury that could derail that completely, but hopefully that won't happen. I mean, he's never really suffered too badly with injuries. He keeps himself pretty strong, and I think he has the kind of game that can age quite gracefully. I think it can age well. Certainly a mid-range shooter. He may have to pull away from the rim a little bit. I know he likes to have these little flashes of going back to a young DeRozan with all the dunks. But I think maybe he could pull back from that and just shoot more mid-range, and maybe even extend out a little bit further to the 3-point line. And his game has the potential, anyway, to age very gracefully and keep him in the league a lot longer than a lot of other players that would have started off playing the way he played when he first came into the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with on both players. To be fair, like I just said with P. Will, I think it's a prove it year. Prove you want that extension, prove you're worth the extension, and just show us what you've got. And if he does, then I think a lot of people are quite happy to give him 20 million. If you can extend him on less, happy days. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As for Demar, I flit each way with this. We have both said in the past that if one of the big three was to go, it makes sense that it's Demar, just trade value wise and stuff like that. It doesn't mean I want to see Demar go though. And as you just said, it all depends what the extension is that he ends up getting offered. As you just said again, his game potentially ages quite gracefully. He keeps himself fit. He does all the mentoring of the young kids. Some people don't like it because they don't like Demar's game, and it's like, well, why do we want players to learn Demar's game? But I don't think they're learning Demar's game. They're learning Demar's mentality.
Right.
That's the big thing. The whole. We've heard it before with Demar on the Paul George podcast where he said these players coming in, they're not bothered about being basketball players. And he's trying to make them be bothered about being a basketball player. P. Will, prime example. If he can change P. Will's mentality and get P. Will to realise his full potential, then that initial 3-year deal, what Demar's done, is more than what he's showing on the court as well. Do you know what I mean? If he can make P. Will the player that we all think he's going to be, if it can help improve Dale and Terry, stuff like that, it's basically he's channeling his inner Kobe Innie with everything he does off the court, which is not a bad role model to have.
No.
And like you say, as for the extension, again, it goes on to, well, I'm going to speak about it in our next segment anyway a little bit, but if you've got the right pieces around him, then his game can change slightly as well. As we highlighted at the end of last year when Pat Bev come in, kind of took the ball out of Demar's hands, and that was the best version of Demar. He can still score. He can still go ISO if he needs to go ISO when it needs it. But he can also pass the ball. And he's slowly bringing that range back as well and becoming a bit more not dependent on the three, but he'll quite happily shoot them. And he was hitting them. You just need to take a couple of steps back sometimes. But, as for would I extend Demar, I think I'll reserve judgment full judgment until the end of the year. From the 2 years we've seen of him, yeah, I would. But it all depends how everything fits together this year and how Demar looks this year. And, you know, I'd quite happily see him stick around. I'd quite happily see him retire as a Bull, I think. Just not on stupid money and not on a stupid contract. You know, it's like a earn your next contract sort of contract, you know. But how many suitors is he going to have around the league? The Lakers want him. The Clippers want him. You just don't know, do you? Do you know what I mean? And they have the potential to turn his head, I guess.
He'd be heading home.
Yeah. So obviously, a question you sort of threw in quite late today as something to talk about. Who is the most important player on the roster? Now, obviously, we do our predictions, which we're going to do. Well, going to start working on in the future shortly. And this isn't us giving out this sort of award prediction at the minute, is it? Because
no.
One of the awards is, who do we think is going to be most valuable player, most important player, however you want to word it. So yeah, well, I'll let you go with it because you obviously had it in your head.
I had it as a talking point. I didn't necessarily have an answer. I suppose I kind of shortlisted a few players that I think have the potential as contenders to be potentially the most important player on the roster. And then there's a slight differential between the most important player on the roster and the most valuable player on the roster. It is a fine line, I'll give you that, but it is a line nonetheless. So the contenders that I kind of shortlisted it to were Zach, Demar, and Vooch, obviously as the core three, big three, whatever you want to call them. But then I had AC, P. Will, and Kobe there. You back?
Yep. I didn't go anywhere. You went. Got you back, yeah.
I don't know. That went weird for a second. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you heard me, but Zach, Demar, and Vooch is the core three, followed then by AC, P. Will, and Kobe potentially as contenders for most important player, depending on, like we've just been discussing, what kind of a breakout year they have. Would there be any other names that you'd add to that list?
Yeah. I did think about it after you asked or put it out there today. And I was expecting you to say it. But for me, I know we haven't seen him yet. Javon Carter.
Yeah, I did consider it.
Just purely because we need that point guard. We need to see, as we've just been talking about Demar, we saw the best, in our opinion, the best version of Demar when Pat Bev was there.
Yeah.
Whether it coincided with his injury or whatever it was, but he kind of took that step back. And you go back to when Lonzo was playing, when we had that point guard. You know, Zach and Demar could both go off and do their thing. You know, they were both putting up 24, 25 points, averaging 24, 25 points a night. You know, breaking records of, you know, the duo records and stuff like that. Getting on the cover of Slam together and stuff. And I'm not saying it's all down to Lonzo, but once Lonzo went out, that disappeared. And
yeah, the wheels fell off.
Yeah. We obviously got ISO Demar, Zach got injured, and then how we saw it when Pat Bev was there was, all right, Demar maybe was struggling with that injury a little bit, but Zach went up there, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? And it still wasn't fun Bulls to watch, but you look like you didn't fear losing going into games as much because there was that glue guy there, wasn't there? The point guard being the glue guy and stuff like that. And for me, that's why I think potentially he's got the ability to be the most important player. The ones you've just listed, yeah, absolutely. You know, Caruso especially. You know, just because of how he is off the court when he stood on the sidelines and stuff like that as well. That coaching on the bench basically, isn't he? Coach on the court and stuff like that. I think when you go to like Vooch, Demar, and Zach, you're crossing into the most valuable player rather than the most important.
Yeah.
Like you say, it is a very, very fine line.
Yeah.
And for them to be the valuable player, they've also got to be an important player. So it's, but I just sort of took that look at it from who makes or potentially makes everybody else valuable.
Right.
And I think Javon Carter's got that sort of mentality where he doesn't need to put up, 20 points a night and however many assists, and he doesn't need the headlines basically. Do you know what I mean? I think he'll just go out there, and he gives an option for the three, and just basically somebody's to bring the ball up the court. Let Demar get into his position. Let Zach get into his position.
Yeah.
Get the ball to him, then get into a better position himself. Take a shot if he needs it, and he's going to take the shot. But then equally, I'd go with Kobe White as well, because he's kind of filling that transition, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? From the point guard going off to somebody coming on, and it's I mean, like I said at the intro, if you're watching on YouTube, drop in the comments. Quite happily see who you all think's our most important player on the roster.
Yeah, definitely. Let us know what you think. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer at this stage of the game. It's all just conversational and interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, we're just obviously trying to fill a gap at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you were saying there on it, I think you've absolutely nailed it. In regards to the most important player on the court is going to be whoever establishes themselves as the glue guy of the team.
Yeah.
And, that was blatantly obvious when we had Lonzo that it was Lonzo. Will Javon Carter turn out to be that kind of a player on this team, that he pulls everything in and makes it all work, and takes, like Lonzo did, takes the thinking away? Because, I think when DeMar thinks too much, he goes too heavy on ISO. When Zach thinks too much, he turns the ball over. So if we can take the thinking away from both of those players, then I do think that improves the team and the dynamic and how it all works together as a unit. And I'm hoping Javon Carter can be that player. I think he's a great shout as a choice. I was going to lean towards AC for the very same reason that you were saying. He's that on the court, off the court coach. He's that glue guy as well that pulls it all in together. He's your defensive stopper. He makes it all work. He's the one that's screaming at everybody on the court to make sure people are aware of what's going on, in the right position, keeping their heads up, all that sort of thing. And I think that stuff is essential to keeping the machine well oiled and turning over well.
Yeah, and like I said, it was a good enough question, and like I say, obviously something that must have been eating away in your brain to
somewhere.
Get out.
All sorts of crazy stuff goes on in here. It's a scary place to be sometimes.
But yeah, like I say, if you're watching on YouTube, then drop it in the comments who you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, any regular listeners will know that we've been doing Matt versus Neill.
Matt versus Neill.
It was going to be a best of 7, this one, and as it stands, it's 3-1 to me.
Yeah, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, no, I'm not feeling confident about this one at all. I don't think you are either, really, are you?
No.
Obviously, the last draft was a 90s Bulls, and this one is going to be 2000s Bulls. Not a fantastic year to try and draft from, or not the early part.
Certainly not the front half of the decade.
So the rules are, it is from the 00/01 season to the 09/10 season.
Yeah.
obviously any Bulls player who played any part in that era. It'll be obviously your 5 starters and a 6th man, and the players are judged on that era basically.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention any names just in case it twists anything, but if they do come up, then obviously we'll mention it at the time, I guess. So yeah, over to you for the lottery. Who gets the number 1?
Now we're using a new system or a new program, as we mentioned there last week, and I can't seem to get it to bring up the screen yet. I will get it at some point, but I can't get it to it at the moment. So there's going to be some level of trust and believe in me, but I will show you the screen as best I can. I don't know. Yeah, I might be able to get you to see it. So I'm going to give it a spin, and we'll see where it lands.
Oh,
and it's me. Okay, that may help, and we'll see. Right. So this is an interesting one because the first pick is kind of almost a double-edged sword. So I'm going to say
we're not doing
that it
snake,
has to be.
are we?
Go on.
We're not doing snake draft either, are we?
No, we're not doing a snake draft. We're doing it sequential.
1 for 1.
So it's based on how they played in this era, what level of game they had in this era, not times gone by, not dynasties or anything like that. This is all about this decade, right? So that being said, I'm going to riskily go for my point guard first. And I'm going to take Derek DeRozan.
Yeah, I thought you were going somewhere else then with that little
Yeah,
speech.
I wanted you to think that.
Yeah, because that was a thought of mine. Right. There's a few names that clearly stand out, so I'm going to go with my 5, and it's got to be Joe.
I didn't think you'd go for Joe first.
Yeah. I can't risk you having both of them.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to have to do it, haven't I? I'm going to go for my small forward. And as we've stipulated, and I know I'm shooting myself now by saying this, but it is how he was in this era, not how he was in the 90s. And I'm going to go with Scottie Pippen.
Ooh, I was not expecting that. What was it he played in this era? 20-odd games?
Something like that.
And fully admits himself that he was done.
Broken. He was broken, but it's Scottie, and I can't pass him up.
Oh, you've thrown me a little bit with that one now.
Good.
I'm going to go with my 2. I'm going to go Ben Gordon.
Okay. BG. Great shout.
Might get my backcourt that I want now.
All right. Okay. So, I am going to go for my 2. And I'm going to take Kirk Heinrich.
Maybe I won't get the backcourt I wanted then.
Yeah, you see? I can read you too well, you see.
Right, you've stumped me now on my point. I'll leave that one for now. I'm going to go with my 3, and I'm going to go Luol Deng.
Yeah, I thought you might. Okay. So I am going to go for my power forward. My number 4, I am going to play Taj.
Thought you might.
Taj Gibson.
Right. I'm going to complete my backcourt with my point guard. I'm going to go Jamal Crawford. Not my first choice, but my best choice left.
Yeah.
I did have Jay, but I don't think that would have gone down too popular.
I'm going to go for my centre before I do my sixth man, and I'm going to go for Big Ben Wallace.
Oh, he was on my list, but wasn't well thought of the ball, was he?
No, but he played well.
He did.
He
just not as well as expected.
That was exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Right. So I haven't got a very big list of anything left, to be fair. Do I go for my sixth? I'm going to throw a random one out there, I think. And again, I think it goes back to what you said with Pippen. I could put him at the 4, but I'm going to put him as my 6th man, Charles Oakley.
Yeah, knew that was coming as soon as you started describing him. So you're taking him as your 6th man?
Yeah.
So you still have a power forward and I still have a 6?
Yeah.
Okay. So for my 6, I have a few to choose from. They're all about as mediocre as each other. It's a toss-up between 2, I think, but I'm going to go with the one that was my personal favourite, which was Andres Nocioni.
Yeah, he was on my list, but I forgot to write him down.
I liked a bit of Noach.
Yeah, he was on my list for my 4, I think, but I just forgot to write him down earlier. Screwed myself. Right, so my 4. Jesus.
Fairly limited that's left, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a few. It's just whether or not they actually played there or not. And how good they were. I'll go Tyrus Thomas.
Yeah. He's about the best of what's left, really.
Yeah. I was thinking Ron Artest, but...
World peace, people.
Yeah, it's not an easy one, that one, was it?
No. It starts off okay, and then it kind of starts to thin out a bit.
When you have to sort of dig deep and find them role guys.
The other guy I was almost going to go for was John Salmons.
Yeah, he's on my list. Who else did I have? Jalen Rose was on my list. I even had Fred Hoiberg, which that shows how desperate we were getting. Who else was there? Ron Mercer. Your guy from the last one, Elton Brand.
Yeah. Didn't win
James
me any favours, so I left him off this time.
James Johnson.
Yeah, James Johnson.
Tyson Chandler, Eddie Curry, and Brad Miller were my...
Brad Miller.
Yeah. So, quickly run down my team before we sign off. At the point, got Jamal Crawford. At the 2, Ben Gordon. 3, Luol Deng. 4, Tyrus Thomas. Man in the middle is Joe. And coming off the bench, the Oak, Charles Oakley.
Very good. So for me, I've got a point guard, Derrick Rose. At shooting guard, Kirk Heinrich. Small forward, Scottie Pippen. Power forward, Taj Gibson. Centre, Ben Wallace. And the number 6 is Nocioni.
I've got a feeling I know which way people are going to vote if they don't listen and they just go off what they see.
If they just read the names.
As we discussed earlier.
So there we go. That's it. Will you be taking it 4-1, or will I be able to maybe nick another game and get back into it?
Yeah. So that rounds out today's episode. And I've got nothing else. I don't know if you have.
No, nothing else to add.
As always, thanks for listening. And if you're on YouTube watching, and don't forget to drop in the comments anything you want to comment. And as usual, I've been Matt, and you can find me on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it, at MattSearedUK, and you can find us on all the socials at SearedUK.
And you can find me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it at Neill SearedUK. On behalf of us both and the Fans First Sports Network, thanks once again to everyone for tuning in, whether you're watching or listening. Please subscribe, rate and review, and give us a thumbs up on YouTube. From Matt and myself, remember it's a Chicago Bulls thing wherever you are in the world. Until next time, see red, people.
Percolator. It's time for the percolator. Percolator.